All right, got a couple requests to do a guitar lesson on the acoustic cover we did of Passenger by the Deftones. Now, if you just haven't seen the cover, I'll link you to it because it sounds absolutely nothing like the song. So it could be kind of like a good lesson in how to maybe arrange something that is difficult in like a different way to kind of, put a spin on it, so to speak. So I played it on a classical guitar in standard tuning because that is the least Deftones thing you could possibly do. I'm going to do it on the steel string because you can see the fret markers and stuff like that. But it was kind of a challenge to kind of come up with like an acoustic rendition of the song, especially in standard tuning. Deftones are an awesome band, and the vibe they have going is like and they just set such a tone for a song and just kind of like ride a groove. They're so good at doing that in like a really cool rock way. And especially when Maynard sings with them, he kind of adds something. There's something really like beautiful about Maynard's voice, even though it's just like so heavy and so rocking. So anyways, I was kind of trying to incorporate kind of some of that stuff in this, arrangement or whatever you want to call it. So we're doing it kind of in the key of E minor. And we're going to start with this E minor 9 chord, right? So the root note is, you can have open E as a root note. 7A, it's also the octave E. And we're going to talk about droning this low E string to kind of get a little bit of the vibe they have in the original edition, right? So we've got 7A, the minor third is right here, 5D, 7G, and 7B. Okay, so kind of has like an openness to it because of the open strings, and that's going to play a role in the rest of the chords too, right? So the way I'm kind of playing it is, I'm kind of picking this open E string, right? And then just kind of like on the back end of that bar, because, the song's called, it's about driving, you're a passenger, you're trying to drive things through. And if you ever want to kind of drive like a song forward, backload the back end of a bar with something. Like kind of, so the front of the bar is like an E drone, and then the back of it is that chord, so it kind of gives it like a propulsion, like a driving feel, right? So we've got this E minor 9 chord, and then I'm going to still drone the E string and do the same kind of rhythm, but on this F major 7 chord, right? So that's where kind of like the pretty part comes in kind of like a weird thing when you drone it over an E. Even though, so it's the root is going to be the 8th fret of the A string is the F. It's going to be like a power chord, so it goes 8, 10, 9, 10. So on its own, it's a very kind of pretty chord, but once you get that E in front of it, it kind of gives it a little bit of a distance, even though the E is the major 7 of the F, F-A-C-E. If you put that E first, kind of gives a little bit of a dissonance because there's not a lot of space between this and this. So basically, a lot of the song, the verse anyways, is going to be a drone on E, minor 9, F major 7. And sometimes I'll kind of connect them, like, which I think is kind of a cool thing. So I'm basically taking this, pinky's going up a fret to the B string, the 8th fret, into the 10th fret where the F is, so that kind of connects it. And that right there, I'm just bringing my pinky down to the bottom, the high E string, and kind of inflecting that F major 7 chord. So that's most of the verse and part of the chorus too. But basically that kind of runs on until what we're going to call like a pre-chorus, I guess. And it sounds like this. And basically it's 3 chords. It's this kind of open C major 7, right? So it's the 8th fret of the E string. I'm skipping the A string, getting the major 7 here, which is the 9th fret of the D string. Opening up the G string because there is a G in a C major 7, and then I'm getting my middle finger here on the 10th fret or the 8th fret of the B string. So I've got, really it's just kind of like an open voiced C major 7 chord, right? And it works because all the open strings are in this key. So I'm kind of picking it. faster though, I think, in the version. And then I'm kind of keeping my ring finger here planted, and then going back to an E, which is the 7th fret on the A string, and then doing the same kind of thing. E, or A, D, B, G, D, A, D, B, G, D, and then walking, and basically this is, right here, I've got an E, a B, and an open G, which this is an E minor chord. Like right here, it's like the most open E minor chord you could probably get if you do power chord on 7A and then just hit all of them. And then I'm walking that back 2 frets to make a D, but I'm still keeping the same open strings. So we've got this C kind of thing. To an E minor, to a D, and that repeats I think twice. And then we're gonna go to the drive part, right? Drive is where it kind of like, where the lyric drive comes in. That's kind of, I think, like the precursor to the heaviness. So you wanted something a little distant there. So we went with the E major, or E dominant 7. And then I'm gonna add this B flat, which is the 3rd fret on the G string, to kind of create some like tension and stuff like that. By the way, Farron absolutely kills it on the song. She's got a very, she's got such a powerhouse, but she has a bunch of different speeds, kind of like Maynard in a way. So I was really kind of, this whole song was her idea, by the way, and I was just kind of trying to follow what she was doing vocally. But yeah, so it's the E7 to and then it goes back into the verse chords a little harder. And that right there is kind of interesting. It sounds like super like modal or dissonant or whatever, but really, I'm just grabbing a low F and kind of switching back between an F major 7 and grabbing that. But because that E is so droned throughout, it sounds like it almost doesn't belong or is kind of wrong or out of key or whatever. But really, it's just that minor second, that 1 fret interval between those. E minor 7 or E minor 9, F major 7. And then the only other part I think is, I guess, the chorus, right? Which I tried to make a little, I don't know, a little prettier, and we just went to a different C major 7 voicing to kind of go lower, to kind of give it more of that down-tuned feel while not being down-tuned. By the way, the reason I don't down-tune, I have nothing against down-tuning. It's just I feel that once I down-tune, I'm not coming back. And I just know that about myself. So I'm putting that off as long as I can, because once I start down-tuning, like, I know that I'm just going to start getting into some heavy stuff. And I'm just delaying that. It'll happen. There's nothing wrong with it. But I've just got some things, some professional things to do first. And then I'll probably switch over to the dark side. But yeah, so this is C major 7 voicing, which is just 3E, 3A, 2D, and then everything open, right? So... And I'm kind of mimicking the pattern I did with this C, but lower. To an E minor, straight up E minor. To a D major 7, which is just, you bar the bottom 3 strings on the 2nd fret and get an open D. So we've got C major 7, E minor, D major 7, and if you know anything about the D major 7, you know that the 5 of D is A, which is also the 5th fret on the high E string, so you can inflect the same chord, right? So C. Fitting way to resolve on that major 7 chord. So yeah, definitely thanks for checking it out. Feel free to hit me up if you have any questions, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.